Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Today, my guest is a former teen pop singer. Her debut single, I Think We're Alone Now, replaced Michael Jackson's Bad song for the #1 song on the Billboard Hot 100. She also has appeared in movies and TV shows such as Robot Chicken and How I Met Your Mother. She has also appeared on Playboy. Her new album, Shadows, is dropping November 25th. Is that Thanksgiving? I almost said Halloween.
Yes, actually. Well, it's the day after. The
Okay.
day after. So I have much to be thankful for. I get to eat my turkey and spend time with my family and then rock a new album the next day.
Hell, yeah.
I'll be doing a show actually in New York that day.
Hey,
So we'll
that's
have
super
to
exciting.
have a big separate celebration. Yeah.
And yeah, so my guest today is Tiffany. Just
Hello.
Tiffany.
Hello.
You've been releasing albums pretty consistently, but also, I feel like a lot of your peers have become either one-hit wonders or just have faded into oblivion. But it seems like for you, you've consistently released music. And what made you decide to release a new album in 2022?
It's what I do. I mean, we had Shadows ready before COVID. So it's been ready for a while. It wasn't mastered. We held that back after all the chaos started, and I held it back from last year. But I did do spot dates on this, doing some Shadows touring, if you will, mainly because those shows were kind of contracted prior to with all the planning of the album release, and then you go on tour. And, I'm a small independent now with a small label, and I've worked various businesses. I have a cooking club called Let's Read with Tiffany, and my cooking takeovers, dinners, and things that I'm doing, and cookbooks. So, but it's very small, and I
Mm-hmm.
understand that small business trying to keep it together. So I really wanted to honor a lot of these venues that were struggling to just find people that would come and fulfill those seats. And it was really an education. I mean, we kept it social distance, but I worked with all those venue owners and all of those group of people to keep it going, you know. And it built and it built and it built. So, I mean, the reason why I do what I do is just because there's no other plan. This is what I do. This is who I am. I've been doing it since I was 9 years old professionally. And, I think, I don't know if I've really reached my full potential yet. I hope
Mm-hmm.
not. I started off so young. I didn't write songs at the time. I didn't really have control, if you will, about the early stuff. I think we're alone now. Didn't really want to record it. Glad I did. But I was only 14 when I made that album and learned and was around a great songwriting base and always wanted to be a songwriter. And it took me until 2000 to really even show that side of myself with The Color of Silence, coming out as a songwriter and then having, Billboard kind of validate it with one of the best albums of 2000. Wow, she's really coming along. This is the Tiffany that we don't know, and to again have that validation because it's taken quite some time. I think, after I think we're alone now, 15, 16, 17, 18 touring. By 19, it was, new producer, new manager. And then that album didn't do very well.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was kind of like the first taste of, uh-oh, what's happening? And then people are so apt to discard you
Right.
in this industry. I mean, it's a little crazy when you think about it. It's very hard to stay on top. It wasn't really until I saw shows like Behind the Music that I felt, oh, well, this is what happens. I mean, when you really put it in perspective, people like Barbara Streisand, people like, I mean, Tina Turner had to leave this country because they told her she would never make it here anymore. That's it. You're done. So she went over to Europe and proved them wrong and came back and look where she's at now. A legend. I think you just have to find your way. You have to keep going. You have to be tenacious and sometimes take those hits where we were talking about this with my crew a couple of nights ago about the negatives aren't so negative sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
They're an opportunity to go, I'm going to go around and prove you wrong. So, negatives, although it can be such a downer, they really can be an inspiration. And if you have that mindset, I'm very tenacious. I'm kind of a go-getter. And I know that this is, number one in my life, other than raising my son, who's now 30. He's a structural engineer and on his way. My priority is to keep doing music. I love my fans. I love making new fans. I love that I think We're Alone Now is always finding a home somewhere, new commercials or on series or, in scary movie, whatever it is, I get a chuckle out of it. And that will always be my base. But it gives me that opportunity to, say, hey, have you heard what I'm doing now? Hey, these are 20 somethings, buying my records or checking out I Like the Rain, my new single, because they heard I Think We're Alone Now somewhere, or they heard a podcast and they went, I kind of like her. I don't know anything about her, but she's cool. Other things that I'm wearing different hats right now with my Radical Reds online boutique, which is, women's fashion and clothing and all kinds of funky. And my cooking club, Let's Food with Tiffany, and, and my Instagram page there, we can see all my recipes and just, I'm doing cookbooks next year, but I want to keep it always towards celebrating food, music, family, interaction, life, especially after COVID, dreams, growing, entrepreneurial, all of it. Just be the best you can be while you're given this time.
But during that time that you were making music as a kid, did you ever have a backup plan, or were you still going to school, or did you ever go to college?
I never went to college. I wish I really wanted to go to college. I really did. And sometimes I feel a little short on that. I feel like I'm not really prepared maybe sometimes for a lot of the new techie stuff now and all the, new ways of adapting to the new world, if you will. And I don't even know if college at that time would have given me this platform. But, it was something that I wanted to do. I got to pay for my son and take him to college, and he's doing quite well. So
Right.
I got to do that through him, which was great. That was the one thing that my music was going to give me, if you will. It was going to pay for my son's college, and it was going to give him a platform and a life to stand on his own 2 feet. And, he's a hard worker, and he's a very smart guy and made good choices. So there's a celebration there. But definitely for myself, no, there's never really been a plan B. I mean, other than taking some time to be a parent. I think a couple of times I tried odd jobs, I have to say, behind the scenes. People probably don't know this, but there was times that I got frustrated in the music industry and thought, that's it. I don't want to be this anymore. I want to just be a regular person, if you will, and hold, down a job. And could I even get a job? Like, what is my worth? And so I worked for Pier 1 actually in Green Hills and Nashville here for a minute. I didn't even know if I was hireable. I used my middle name, walked in
Pier
and got
1,
a
like
job unloading trucks. And so, but it was good. I got lifelong friends.
Wait, what is Pier 1?
Pier 1.
What is that?
Pier 1 is candles, furniture, design and decor, really.
Oh, like a retail
home decor.
job.
And I literally it was out of frustration. I just dropped my son off to Belmont Montessori School. And at the time I was married and my ex-husband went off to do his jobs. And I was relatively new in Nashville, and, I was doing the whole songwriting thing. But again, my name got me into situations that most people would go, great, but I didn't have the chops, if you will, as a songwriter. So I was feeling very bad about myself, and not, I really didn't know how to come to Nashville as a songwriter and just go, okay, 1, 2, 3, we're going to write a hit in 10 minutes or less. It's a talent. It's a thing that you do all the time. It is a dedication, if you will, to be a better songwriter and to have those skills. And that takes doing it all the time. So I was coming in from LA and getting these big meetings with massive writers and failing.
Right.
So it was making me feel like, shit, really. And I thought, what could I be doing? I don't know anybody in Nashville, only in the business side. My family's in LA. My son goes to school, my husband goes to work, and I sit here and feel pretty crap about myself. What could I, and that was before Instagram and all the other avenues where you could connect or show another side of yourself or anything. So I thought, could I really even get a job? And I saw Pier One and they said, now hiring. And I thought, all right. So I went in, I gave some references and I was hired. I worked there for like 6 months before anybody discovered that I was Tiffany. The funniest thing is because when a lot of celebrities would come into the store, all the girls would go rushing to the front and I would go rushing to the back. I would be in the toilet or outside. They'd be like, oh, why didn't you want to see such and such? I'm thinking, well, because I worked with them. I don't want anybody to know that I worked, because it wasn't for money. It was for confidence. It was to see what my worth was, to find my place again as a new mom, and making friends that were outside of the music industry. And for me, that wasn't really working. And I really did make great girlfriends who are still my friends now. They get a chuckle that they were right alongside Tiffany and never noticed. I'm like, you guys suck. You never noticed who I was. Right. I never lied about myself. And it was actually one of the managers. She went back to Japan and she had a group of photos from all the girls that she works with. And her sister was like, who is that? That's Tiffany. And she was like, well, her name is Tiffany. She's like, yeah, from LA. She was born and raised, and she did she did walked it through, and she was like, oh. And so that was it. I was kind of blown, and I had to quit after that. Because of course I got on the radio that I was working a job, and then you had fans coming, and that's just not going to work. But that was the only other time that I really took a break. I mean, for me, I've just been learning. Songwriting was something I really wanted to feel proud about, calling myself a songwriter, a valid songwriter.
Let's break down.
And so I came to Nashville and did that.
Let's break down the songwriting thing for a second, because it's pretty wild. Your biggest song, I Think We're Alone Now, is actually a cover. So was there any backlash for that when it first came out from the Shondells or Tommy James or anything like that? Because it definitely actually blew that single out of the water. And I wonder if there's any stipulations towards monetizing a song like that if it's a cover,
Not at that time. I think we've gotten a little bit more strict on monetizing and remakes and covers and publishing and things like that. But I mean, obviously they got paid, and that's something that the label does on that side. At the time I recorded, I didn't know anything about that. The song came in and it was all children behave. And I was like, what the heck is happening? And I did, like I said, I didn't want to record it. But the producer at the time was like, look, I'm going to work on the track, come back tomorrow. It'll be everything. And I was literally disappointed because I came back and it was like a dance track. And I never really wanted to be like a dance artist. I wanted to be more, if you would, modern day Sheryl Crow back then, little country, little rock and roll, little, Americana. And it just wasn't working out for me. And I Think We're Alone Now. He's look, just record it. I really believe in this. And look what happened. But, as a songwriter, I took many, many years to grow into that footing because, people really didn't encourage me in my early career.
That was probably out of the 80s though, right? That was from interviews I've listened to. That seems like that didn't hit until the 2000s almost. So
exactly. I was always behind the scenes writing, doing music and writing and trying to learn. I wrote more poetry than I did really lyrics. And my producer just never really encouraged me. It was just nothing. He didn't want to take the time to really nurture that. And so I always felt a little discarded on that. But really how I got my chops, if you will, or my footing or my confidence was working with my musicians, working with the band. Just, there's so much time sometimes on the road. You're just sitting there and it was like, hey, I have an idea. Could you maybe put some music to this? I don't know anything about playing an instrument, but this is a melody. And I hear it like this because I hear melodies. And they were like, they pick up an instrument and then off we go. We would be writing. So, that's really how I started as a writer in 2000 when I did the album, The Color Silence.
But do you think that
my coming out as a songwriter, really?
Do you think that was a detriment though, for it to take close to 20 years to start to try to find new footing? Do you feel like, I feel like if you had started earlier,
Not really.
That may have given you more. The younger you are, the more forgiving the industry and people are of the music you're releasing. You know what I mean? So like if your lyricism, whether you're a hip hop artist, pop artist, country singer, whatever, isn't top notch when you're 16, like
Right.
do you think, first of all, like Justin Bieber's Baby song that had how many writers on it to begin with in general, but also
Yes.
like that's definitely not top tier Justin Bieber, but the industry was very forgiving of that, and that was a huge single at the time. So do you feel
Hmm.
like if you had actually worked on, or maybe whether it's surrounding yourself around the right people or whatever, do you think your career would look very different?
I'm not a big fan of the what a could have, should have's, and all of that, the could have beens, if you will. It just does your head in. There's really no reason for it. I don't know as a person if it took me it took me a while to fill these shoes as a lyricist, to write what I feel are good, solid, valid songs that people understand. And I'm a writer that writes about experience, life, situation, heartache a lot. So I needed to grow. I think I needed that experience with real musicians. What I like about it is that I didn't get into the system. I didn't get jaded. I didn't throw things out and have a million, failures, if you will. So I've waited behind the scenes and grown and worked with people and been choosy of what I put out there. I mean, I've always been working, but not everything came to light. Not everything, got the financial backing, nor did I say, yes, this is going to be out there.
But you don't think you
So
got,
starting from Color of Silence on, I feel all the albums have been, a step in the right direction for me, especially this one. I think I'm writing the best I have, and I hope to be better. And then the same thing as a singer. I think, you just kind of grow into it.
but you don't feel like you got jaded at all? I feel if you're taking this new lease, I'm the worst with sayings, by the way. This could be the wrong thing I'm saying. The lease on life. I think that's a thing people say. If you have if you have a new lease on life and how you're releasing music going forward, but then do you feel like you're overshadowed by your songs previously from the 80s? Because even if you look on, this is just one
Yeah.
platform alone, but let's say Spotify, right? That song, I think We're Alone Now, has 100, it's like, what is it, like 170 million listens or something crazy like that?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
that's insane. And then if you're trying to, hopefully, you want your next song to be better than the last, right? But if you have
Right.
something like that glaring at you and then you're releasing these new albums, that doesn't make you jaded at all, or feel like what's going on?
No, because it gives me the opportunity. I mean, again, I think We're Alone Now as an example. It finds its way into so many new opportunities, from commercials to soundtracks to the 20 somethings finding it and then going, oh my God, like, how old is this woman? She didn't look that old and she's still cool. And she's doing really relative music now. And, it's inspirational. So I find it to be very favorable, very positive. That those things again I didn't write.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned very early on that, when you get into publishing and you get into money, if you will, the more that you can control it and wear all the hats, the better. I still don't play an instrument. I'm not into producing, don't know shit about technology and all that jazz. It doesn't interest me. I know a little bit, but that's not my jam. What is providing great music, being the best lyricist I can, being the best artist I can, being the best frontman I can, and going out and nailing my vocals. And now, as we've gotten into social media aspects and living out loud, as you will, being the best celebrity, if you will, being the best human, being personable, telling my personal story, and being open and pliable. So, I don't know if even all of those things I had them at that time would have really mattered. I think now is the time to shine. And I'm still learning. Social media has got my head like crazy. You got a TikTok, you got this. It's like all these different careers, if you will, to really get that momentum. It's a lot of time and effort you have to put into that one thing to make things pop. Like you said, it's hard to look up, I think We're Alone Now, and it has all these hits. And then you put up the new single and it's like, 30,000 views or something. And you're like, you could say that, you could feel that way,
Mm-hmm.
but there's so much saturation from other artists. I mean, what is a bummer, if you want to say what the bummer side, and that's not towards my career, but 4,500 copies of a single right now gets you a number one.
Hmm.
That's crazy. Those numbers are like, in my eyes, coming from the 80s, that's like failure.
Right.
For me to have a number one back then, we were talking in the millions.
Right.
I sold 17 million records. Who really, other than a few names out there now, and a lot of them legendary, no one really pops out right now and sells 17 million records. It's just, they're very low numbers, but
I think that's
again,
because,
is it an avenue to like tour? Is it an avenue to get your face out there? We've changed the industry so much. So there's a plus and a negative, if you will, but I think, again, if people are listening, that's all that really matters. More than anything, I pride myself as a live artist.
mm-hmm.
And if I can get those shows sold out and people come to my shows and go, holy moly, I didn't know she was that kind of vocalist. I didn't know she was so accessible and so funny and with such a great band. And she really was above and beyond what I thought Tiffany was going to be. That's where I'm at right now. That's my headspace. That's all I care about, because that to me makes me happy, is a new fan, and they get me and they're willing to ride the next wave with me. And they love my music that I created, that is a form of me, that are my lyrics.
Right.
So that's kind of the high that I'm riding right now.
I like your point about the album sales. What it is really interesting though, because things are broken up into streaming versus physical copies. So I think streaming is, you need, I don't know how many, you need like, this is going to be an exaggeration, but it's literally like something like 100 streams is like one album. You know what I mean? So it is wild how
and as to the songwriter, I mean, let's just say, even like 100,000 streams, if you will, as a songwriter, you get a check for like, like $2 or something.
Yeah.
It's dramatically changed on the monetary aspect. So, it makes artists change a lot. Back then, if I look at a lot of my songwriter friends of the 80s who really worked on the, first couple of albums for me, who have become my friends now. I was only 14 when I was recorded. They were in the early 20s. Now, full circle, they're in their late 50s, 60s, and, I'm in my 50s. So now we're like hanging out, having wine, talking shop, being songwriters together, being buddies. And, they're talking about checks that they were cashing off of me from one song that they managed to buy a house with. Mm-hmm. You would never have that now. You're like, I could buy ice cream maybe for my child. I don't know. It's just, that part of it really sucks because it's been watered down so much. But we've also been given so many other opportunities. Again, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all these other aspects that if you're down with it as a celebrity, you can really show yourself and build your brand, which I'm doing with my cooking club, Let's Food with Tiffany. Cookbooks coming next year. My Radical Reds, Instagram and online boutique, different things that you can pop up there and work them and have that instant gratification, have extra income, have another side to yourself. Before, I think before the 80s and then some, it was like, what do you want to be? You have to be something. That's it. You're a singer. But now you're a celebrity, and that just means you can kind of do all of it. And I really love that freedom. I'm learning to use that freedom more and to engage in that freedom because, like I said, I'm not a techie. This is it. Like putting my phone on the little tripod, my ring light. This is it. We're at my max right now, peeps. But with my team and everything, we are really, using those avenues. And I'm learning more and more and more and being able to engage with my fans. And then that comes full circle to going back to going to Spotify, listen to my new single, then come, most gratifying for me is come to my show. Come to one of my live shows. Come be a Tiff fan. Let's go have some fun. at a venue and rock our faces off and then do a meet and greet later. I'd love to get to know you and take pictures and have the full human musical experience with people.
So
that's kind of what I live for.
Are you able to still like basically tour regularly?
I am mainly a touring artist. I even toured through COVID, social distance, worked with venues. I mean, I was one of the only people out there actually still doing it. I took myself to Florida. We did beach concerts. We did park concerts. We did everything properly social distance, but we kept it going. And again, a lot of the venues that had contracted prior to COVID were struggling. And they were like, we're going to close our doors if we don't do something and find our tribe, find people who are willing to trust a little bit. And of course, we do it the right way and we don't overstep. We go slow. And, we can't have 300 people, but we might be able to have 30, but we have to start somewhere. And, I kept going. So now, yes, definitely next year, we'll be touring all of Europe. I hope to do, Japan. I hope to crack into some other places I haven't been in a long time. Now that the gates are open to be able to do that, I think you really have to just live life now. Don't take it for granted.
Right.
I don't personally love to get on an airplane, but once I'm there, I love being around people. And I hope to, also do foodie experiences, start to cook with other chefs, and just kind of, when Tiff lands somewhere, she's going to saturate that area. We're going to do some shopping dates, some cooking dates, and we're going to do the new music. And there's different levels to be a part of the Tiff experience, which to me is very freeing. And I love that's where I'm at now. And I love that when I'm singing, like I Like the Rain, the new single, I wrote that about chaos in my own life. I wrote that about life change, making bad decisions, owning those decisions, blowing it, in a personal choice, in my own personal life, getting divorces, things not working out, failures, maybe not being my best or trying something that didn't work. All of that is what I Like the Rain is. No matter what, the good, the bad, the ugly, I'm going to own my life. And even the things that I've chosen that weren't so great all led me to an experience, hopefully, that has broadened my mindset. I know myself more. And as a lyricist, if I can tell that story about, it's kind of like sitting down with your mom or your dad, your grandpa, or your auntie, whoever it is, and they go, let me tell you a thing or two. I've done this. That knowledge, that's kind of where I put it into my music. And it really resonates with my fans. There's so many people. I get a kick when people come backstage and they tell me that my song has inspired them, something I wrote.
Hell yeah. We only have a few more minutes. I have 3 more questions for you. First of all, I bet you have we don't have to dive into this, but I bet you have a pretty deep understanding then about venue politics then, since during COVID. And here in Seattle, there's always been a ton of politics with Seattle artists, up-and-coming artists performing at venues. And then, once COVID hit, those venues almost begging certain artists to perform when before they'd have like no shot at performing at those venues. So that's an interesting thing. But that's cool that you were able to support venues in their time of need and also hopefully make some income from that. One thing that I've been thinking about, because this is also a big portion of the audience, is artists themselves as well. So of course your fans will tune in, but I really do the podcast to support up and coming artists and have industry artists also give advice to each other and people learn from each other. So from the Alone Now single, I have a few opinions on what could have happened, but from a song from the 80s, you being a teenager, what was it like monetizing a song like that now? Like, if you were to stop releasing music altogether, would you still have like a solid income from that song? And then for artists, up and coming artists, I feel like some artists feel like all they need is one song and then they're set. Right. So from an artist yourself, as an artist yourself, what is your advice? And like, what is the real when it comes to a song like that, and how it's financially may or may not support you in the long run?
Well, I mean, as a live artist, yes, I can continue to be, I think, grow low now girl until I can't do it anymore.
Hmm.
But that's not really, I do 80s jams, freestyles. We talked about Sir Mix a lot. I've done
Yeah.
shows with them recently, Lisa, Taylor Dane, all my people. I love them so much. But I wasn't really a freestyle artist, but I think Grow Low now has a home there, which I'm grateful for. Obviously, when I go over to Europe, I do a lot of the retro festivals. Love them; they're a blast. But for me, the new music is where my mindset is. As a songwriter, no, I have no rights to. I think we're alone now. Richie
Wow.
Cordell and Tommy James have always been wonderful. They've always supported. They're very cool. I've met them many times. Um, but that's it. They own that song. That's their publishing. I don't make a dime off of that.
Wow.
So, I've learned that education again very early on. You would think, oh, wow, that did so well. You must be rolling. But if you don't write the song, especially back in those days where you could really make money, you got to go out and tour live. That's really it.
Hmm.
Now, again, for me as a celebrity currently, and any advice I would have to people is again, it's great to be a musician, go all in, earn your craft, learn your craft, hone it. If you can play an instrument, please learn. I'm now learning late in the game. But, all of those different sides really add to, your validation and your worth. But also, the more that you can turn the camera on your face and engage with people and talk about your life and be an inspiration or find your tribe where you can get your music out, but your brand. This
Hmm.
is the thing in the 2000s, I think, that we're learning now is more about branding. I'm still learning, but brands is, being a brand, something that's marketable as a person, as your music, all of that is really where it's at now. I mean, for me, my next step as a songwriter is to get into TV and film. I'd love to be writing for other artists. I had the opportunity and I did it for a German artist a couple of years ago. And that was cool. I just wrote songs for them to give to them to
Right.
tour the world. Just thought it was just an album cut, but I've got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So that was amazing.
So second to last question. I saw an article yesterday even about this, and I'd like to hear your advice from an artist that got their start very early on. Even an icon like Selena Gomez just came forward the other day and was saying that she's had like suicidal thoughts in the past, and she wants to, help share her experiences and inspire other people. So from being a child celebrity, how do you deal with how did you deal with the success and how do you deal with it now? And because Selena Gomez is a good example. She was also a child celebrity, and for her to come forward and say
Mhm.
something like that is pretty. It's honestly not too shocking though to hear someone say that from coming from such a early start in the industry.
I mean, I don't even know if that's the celebrity thing. I think that we have a platform to engage again with people and tell our story and influence people. But I mean, I think that's a human thing.
Hmm.
Everybody has highs and lows. I think in mental health in this country, we really need to focus on. I personally feel that instead, it's great to have Starbucks in every corner, but we should have clinics on every corner that are free and open, that don't discriminate, that also don't put it, into your workplace that you came in or any backlash, that you had a moment that you needed to walk in and just get a little pep me up,
Hmm.
not a pill. If you need to take medication, I'm not against that. But I feel that sometimes that's our first to go to. I don't feel good. Let me take this pill.
Hmm.
Well, that only is masking a problem when sometimes, I mean, I know I've talked to people before and I'm like, I'm feeling low, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that, and I'm just overwhelmed. And they're like, honey, you had a divorce. Your cousin just died from an overdose. Like this is real. Feel it. Don't discard it. Feel it. Cry. You can't stay in that, but sometimes you have to really do that. And it's not convenient. It's not convenient when you're a mom. It's not convenient when you have an overloaded schedule, in corporate and you've got to be shine and all that. It's not convenient when you turn on the camera and you got to be everything's so happy.
Hmm.
It's not convenient. But whenever you can. That's why I meditate. I learned holistic healing, meditation, and a time out, if you will. Sleep is an amazing thing as well. Sometimes we're lacking sleep. We can't make
Yeah.
good decisions because we're going. And it's like, holy shit, I haven't really slept like 8 hours or a good night's sleep. I now love naps. And people go, oh, because you're older. No, it's because I need a timeout.
Right.
I need peace. We've got the phone, we've got this, we've got that. Then I've got my duties as a mom and an aunt and a girlfriend and all these different things. Sometimes I just need to go away, take a hot bath, and just doing simple things like that, nurturing yourself and not being ashamed to take that time out, not be ashamed to say, I'm not having a good moment right now. I need a lifeline, your girlfriends, whatever it is, finding that time. Or sometimes, I do prayer and meditation. So for me, and I think it's great that Selena is talking out about having those moments and what you can do and what tricks worked for her.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more that we talk about it and someone's listening, I may not resonate with them, but she might. And that could be a life-saving moment. I remember doing a show that I went down to Pahrump, Nevada, and it was just, the show was not together. It was in the dirt field. It was like, why am I here? If I wanted to complain, it was hot, miserable. There was no backstage area. There was flies everywhere. It was just not glamorous. And, it was one of the times that I brought my family with me, and it was just not a great time, if you will. And I just thought, okay, well, I don't really know why I'm doing this. This is just a disaster, and it's a long way. We got to drive back and all that stuff. And this girl came up to me and she was like, can I get a picture with you? And I said, sure. I just sang. And I said, sure, come on, get a picture with me. And she just burst into tears. And she said, I just want to let you know that I was going to kill myself today. Mm. And I found out that there was music down the street and it was a free concert. And I had my friend bring me here because I wanted to just hear music before I die. That's all I wanted. I just wanted, my life is terrible. My stepfather abuses me. My mom won't stand up for me. And I just was like, okay, Tiffany, this is the reason why you were here today.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do about Tiffany. This girl needed you. The universe aligned it. And all I could say to her was, you may not have choices now, but stay in the game. One day you will be 18. You are not your family. You are not their mistakes. You are not their burdens. You are you. And now what you need to be doing is reaching out as much as you can to build those blocks in your life to have safety, understanding, better education, and better building blocks to start your life. Start dreaming of how you want to teach your children. Start building of what you want to do. Start teaching yourself as much as possible social skills. Start teaching yourself that you like yourself, even if you just were slapped in the face, because there's nothing you can do about it right now. You're going to have to leave here and go right back into that situation. But at 18, you have a lease on life. And if you educate yourself right now, and especially about building yourself up and finding your friends right now, finding somebody in your group that's positive, that you like to laugh with. I know it sounds stupid, but that brings confidence, that brings hope, that brings belief, that brings faith, that will start to, and she wrote me a letter later on.
Oh, wow.
We kept in contact and she made it through. She made it through. She got a job. She got the hell out of there. And, I'm sure it wasn't easy, but it was just the hope that right now, yes, you're a minor. There's nothing you can do. But at 18, there's a lot you can do. And it was like a year and a half that she had to wait or something before her 18th birthday. And she did. She found a great group of girlfriends and friends who understood what she was going through. And she still had to go through the abuse and all of that. But she knew one day, this is not going to be me. This is not going to be how I treat my kids. This is not going to be the relationship I want when I be able to date. My home is going to be peaceful. My home's going to be love. And I'm going to learn what love looks like, because I certainly don't see it here. And a lot of times we do that in the wrong way.
Right.
You know, we go be needy and then we just put ourselves in bad situations. And the only thing I could tell her to encourage her was find the good. Find the good. Infuse yourself as much as you can with the good, because it's the only thing that's going to get you through. And, you know, it was great to receive those letters from her at that time to say that she made it, you know, and I just felt like I was there for that reason. You never know in this big scheme of life. As I travel the world, music is amazing, but sometimes, again, that human experience, and who needs to hear those lyrics, or who needs to just have a hug. You know, I'm really a big believer of that.
Hell yeah. I appreciate you being open. You were more open than I expected, and you seem like a nice lady. And
Thank you.
I appreciate you taking time to do this. That's crazy that you actually have ties to Seattle. Hopefully when you're in Seattle
Yes,
next,
I do.
you can
I
come in
love
studio.
that city. It's awesome.
Hell yeah.
And I know Jay's probably listening. He's my assistant out there rocking everything in Tiff World. So I love him. And definitely we when we get out there, I actually just like to walk around, to be honest with you. It's another city that has so many different elements to it. And it's beautiful. But, you know, just on a musician type of, if the walls could talk, you know, you can feel the vibe. I feel infused when I'm there, which is great.
Hell yeah. You're part of the NAST community now. So if there's ever any
Thank
producers
you. I love
or
it.
artists you'd like to work with, just let me know. I feel like as artists start to get older, the newer generation, for whatever reason, there's a disconnect, but there doesn't have to be, and there's a lot to learn from one another. So thank you for taking your time to do this episode. I know we're running a little behind schedule, or I think that's what we say. Behind schedule means
that's okay.
Whichever.
I'm making a pasta sauce, like I said, for my
yeah.
cooking club. And that's what I'm going to be doing, making pasta sauce. So everybody, I hope you guys are doing great. And yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me in your community.
Of course.
Thank you, NAST. I appreciate it. So we will talk further.
Yes.
For sure.
And what is the easiest way for people to reach you?
TiffanyTunes.com for all things Tiff World, guys. Follow me on Let's Food with Tiffany on Instagram. Join the cooking club if you're down. And, you know, come and see a live show. But TiffanyTunes.com is where you can find everything in Tiff World.
There we go. This has been the NAST podcast with
Tiffany.
And we did it.